It's match day in the NCAA tournament. The defending national champions match up against Marshall, the number 10 team in the nation, taking on number 8 seeded Georgetown. And I'm pleased to be joined by John Fanta from the Big East. John is the oracle of the Big East. I mean, he knows everything about everything in the Big East. And that quote comes from a Big East SID, Wilbur DeLashman at Creighton. John, I really appreciate you joining me here and taking the time.
Jake, it's great to be with you. What a story this is. The Thundering Herd, incredible what they were able to do over Clemson. They are such a physical team, and they make you work for what you get. They made Clemson work for everything, and they came out with the result. And now they take on another ultimate test, right, against this Georgetown Hoyas team, which looks very different from what it was earlier in this season. That being said, I anticipate a really nip-and-tuck match on Monday afternoon between two teams who simply do not give up many goals.
Well, we were bantering a little bit before we started here, and we were talking about, for Georgetown, they look different than the team that won the national championship last year. They had Jacob Montez leave for a Prim League tryout. 2 players joined Orlando FC. They had a couple players preseason sign pro contracts, 2 opt-outs as well. The job that Brian Weiss, the head coach, has done at Georgetown to lose those players, come back, though, get a national seed, and now here they are, 1 win away from the College Cup. Would you say this is one of his best coaching jobs with the Hoyas?
Oh, I think it's his best coaching job. I really mean that. This Georgetown team loses 3 to the pro ranks, 3 guys that were part of national championship success. You know, you think about Rio Hope Gunn, an elite defender, top defensive player in the Big East. He actually won the Big East Defensive Player of the Year award after departing from the team. That shows you how much respect the coaches have. And then you talk about Jacob Montez, who's trying to try out for the Premier League. And then you think about Derek Dotson, elite finisher, someone who makes things happen for Georgetown. He creates for others. That's big. You know, those are 3 big losses. But in that, they've had to play freshmen. Chris Hagart stepped up to the plate. They've had a couple other guys that have had to step up that haven't necessarily been in the biggest of roles. And in the end, Dante Polvera has risen up here for Georgetown and has become one of the best players in the country. It's why he's a Mac Hermann Trophy semifinalist. So for me, it is Brian Weiss's best coaching job. I really believe that, because how many times do you lose 3 superstar players right before the postseason and you're told, hey, you've got to adapt? And I think because of that, Georgetown's taken on an underdog mentality. Perhaps the Big East Championship game lost to Seton Hall was the best thing that could have happened to this team. They got 2 weeks to work things out, and now they're ready to go. And look, Brian Weiss comes from Stanford, where they've been a soccer factory. You know, he worked under the coaching staff there. He knows what it takes to win. He's doing that at Georgetown, and that's why the Hoyas are in this position.
You talk about that loss in the Big East title match to Seton Hall. They come back last match, and they beat Penn State 3-2 to get here to the round of 8. And Coach Weiss, after that match, said that Penn State at the time is one of the best teams. The way they're playing is one of the best teams in the country right now. And so for them to sort of come out, and they really dominated, John, in the first 50, 55 minutes. Your takeaways from that match are what?
Well, my takeaway is that you can't let Georgetown get into their rhythm. That's been a big problem for teams, is if you allow Georgetown to dictate the tempo and the physicality of the game, you're in for a long day. You're in for a long day. And you better have elite finishing if you're going to battle back from that. And my takeaway from the Penn State match is, you know, Rio Hope Gunn leaving the fold for this team, apologize in the background, Rio Hope Gunn leaving the fold for this team, it has forced Sean Zawatsky, one of the top midfielders in college soccer, to play in the back for Georgetown. But even that being said, the Georgetown back line, it can be scored on. That's what it said to me, is that Georgetown, with Hope Gunn gone, that their defense could be scored on. So what I look at for the Penn State match is, you can't let Georgetown set the tone. You know, if I'm Marshall on Monday, focus on possession. Focus on possessing the ball. Focus on creating in the midfield. You've got to try to set the tone in the midfield, because nobody is better in college soccer when on their A game than Georgetown at making you play their game. You might come out with a result over Georgetown, but more times than not, Jake, they're going to make you play their game. What I love about Marshall is they were able to play Clemson as tough as they were, and this is nothing new for Marshall. You know, they faced a team that's so good at dictating the style. But I do think that it's really important that Marshall marks Povara, because Dante Povara is elite. I mean, if he's not finishing, he's creating for somebody else. And right now, with the way Zach Riviere, he's my impact player, the senior, scored 3 goals in as many matches, Marshall's got to be ready to defend him. So my takeaway is, don't let the Hoyas start hot. If you allow them to, you're going to end up – you could give up 3, 4, 5 goals in a game to them. I thought that Penn State was lucky to not give up more than 3.
You're 100% right. I caught a little bit of that match, the broadcast of it. And Coach Weiss was right as well. You know, they really dominated. He said after the Penn State match, it was really those first 50 minutes that won that match for the Hoyas.
Yep.
You talk about the midfield. I do want to talk about Paul Rothrock, because last season I was watching the Georgetown-Louisville match in the NCAA tournament, and that's a name that I heard a lot on that broadcast. He's back. He's the senior from Seattle. What does he bring to this team?
Well, he brings a lot of passion. He brings a lot of energy. And people hear those words, and they often say, come on, that's cliche, John. But let me tell you why I say that. Paul Rothrock had a chance to go pro, okay? He was getting scouted. He could have gone pro. He had plenty of options. He felt like that he could make an impact. This is a kid who transferred into this program. He felt like that he could make an impact in his senior season and go out with a bang and be a part of a championship team. And because of that mentality, Jake, Georgetown is so much better off, because if they don't have Rothrock, that's another missing link for a guy that would have just gone pro before the season even started. So I give Rothrock a lot of credit, because Brian Weiss says he wants to be here. He wants to be part of a national championship team again. And Rothrock understands what it takes to win. So he brings a sense of calm, but he also brings an energy that says to the rest of a young roster, hey guys, this is the standard. I stayed here to meet that standard, and I'm going for it. And that's what Paul Rothrock has meant to this team.
We talked before we started about the goalkeeper matchup. You said this really just feels like a fantastic keeper matchup in your opinion, and it is. With Georgetown and their keeper, the reigning Big East keeper of the year, both preseason and postseason, Giannis Nikopolidis. Talk about his progression. He won the award last year, comes back, wins it again. But what have you liked about his season this year?
Wow. I've liked the way that he's matured as a player. And what I mean by that is Giannis is so super athletic that when he first started at Georgetown, sometimes he was doing the sensational, but not doing some of the basics. And I think he's gotten a lot better at some of the little things that a goalkeeper needs to do. He's somebody that has increased vocally what his duties are, and to be a 2-time Big East goalkeeper of the year, back-to-back seasons. It says it all about this kid. He is ultra athletic, but Jake, what I think they are impressed by is his attention to detail has taken the next step. He stops anything or most things in his tracks. Here's a big thing. He has proven himself on PKs. I want to give you a nugget here. In the Big East championship game, he stopped a PK, came up big in that match, and ended up, playing a big role for Georgetown throughout the season. So for Nikopolidis, this is somebody who has stepped up from the spot before. I expect him to do that again. I think he's a big game goalkeeper, and I love his physical presence, and I love the way that he leads this Georgetown team. So for Nikopolidis, this is someone who's really paid attention to the little things, and they like the way that he's evolved as a player.
Really feels like this is going to be a rock fight of sorts, a good smash mouth defensive. Not to use football terms, but I mean, that really is what it feels like. You have 2 keepers of the year in their respective leagues going against each other, strong back lines.
Yeah, strong back lines, and I think that again, one thing about this College Cup one thing about this NCAA tournament is that these teams are down in North Carolina. They're getting extended amounts of rest in between their games. They're not playing 2 games in 3 days like we see in the College Cup format in the one location. So, Jake, I do expect the first 15 minutes of this game to be run and gun. I think both teams are going to try to get a quick one and then wear each other down physically. So I'm looking at what happens early, because these teams are going to be out gunning for each other. I expect Georgetown to potentially test Simmel. but there's no question he can handle that. For Marshall, it's not like the Thundering Herd have been an outstanding scoring team. But you know what? They make the most of their opportunities. Find a set-piece opportunity and execute on it. That's the key for Marshall early on.
As a broadcaster, I love to get other people's opinions on this. And Marshall's fourth-year head coach, Chris Grassi, he came into the program, and he was not shy about sort of, banging on the table and saying, hey, we're going to contend for national championships. We're going to win a national championship. And you really look at the history of Marshall men's soccer, at times they were lucky to even qualify for the Conference USA tournament, much less the national tournament. In your opinion, is it refreshing to hear a coach kind of stand up and say, hey, we're going to do this, and we have this big, hairy, audacious goal. We're going to do it. We're not afraid to say it. We're going to go do it. Is that refreshing to you to hear that?
It's refreshing to see words get turned into material actions. That this coaching staff at Marshall in year 4 has translated the energy that they brought on day one into work, into times when people don't have a camera on you or when you're not getting broadcast. I love the expectations. Look, is Marshall in the ACC, okay, or are they in the Pac-12? They're not, but they make up for it in identifying the right players. You just said it with your goalkeeper who's come in. You've brought in numerous transfers that have kind of come out of nowhere. JUCO guys, perhaps older guys. You find the right fits for your program. And that's what I like about this Marshall coaching staff. Of course, they came out with a goal of winning championships, but you can't try to be, the Stanford or the Georgetown. You got to do it your own way. And I love the fact that this coaching staff has come in and done it their way and now is on the cusp of a college cup. That's a coach that has a great mindset of who he wants on his 11. So I'm all for it, and I really give the Marshall staff a ton of credit for setting those standards, Jake. Not enough staffs in America do that. And Seton Hall is an example of it in the Big East. They didn't win a game 6 years ago. They didn't win a single game, and now they're a win away from the College Cup. Look at Marshall men's soccer. Forget about the history. You try to build what you can in the now, and that's what this coaching staff has done. And I think that the Marshall coaching staff absolutely could deserve National Coaching Staff of the Year.
Well, and you talked about it with Georgetown, and we talked about it sort of the new look this year for the Hoyas. Marshall's kind of similar in a different way, but a similar story. They lose their goalkeeper. They lose a stout defender in Alalos Manu. They lose Jonas Vestmeyer up front. And Coach Grassi, I remember he kind of said offhand to me, he felt like last year's team was sort of ahead of schedule, and they made it to the round of 16. So to be able to sort of reload, bring in guys nobody really knows, right? And they've had more success than last year's team. You're right. It's 100% impressive. It's been a treat to be a part of.
You know what? What I always look at is for Coach Grassi and his staff, when you go to the round of 16, what do? Do you sit there and celebrate that accomplishment, or do you look for more? And this is a Marshall program that expects to win. Coach Grassi and his staff, when they took the pitch against Clemson, and you felt this too covering the program, you felt like, hey, they've got a chance to win. You know why? They've established a culture. They've established the right kinds of players that do go out to the field and expect to win. And that's half the battle in soccer. It's a mental game. Soccer, this stage of the game is mental. All these teams are ultra talented. It's one or two decisions that make a difference, and that comes down to mentality. The Marshall Thundering Herd have the right mentality to win championships. That's a credit to the coaching staff, and I give them, the parallels here. Marshall wants more off the round of 16. They have new faces, but they made it work because they have a culture. Georgetown loses 3 players to the pro ranks. It looks like they could be maybe an earlier exit than people thought. Here they are, a win away from the College Cup. That says Brian Weiss has built a culture. Great coaching matchup between Grassi and Weiss on Monday. This is going to be fun.
It's going to be fantastic. And John, you're right. After that match against Clemson, Coach Grassi told the local media here in Huntington, hey, that's great. We beat the number 1 team, but we want to be the number 1 team. We don't want to beat the number 1 team. And so you're 100% right, to have those expectations. But you're right. It should be a fantastic matchup. John, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. No matter who comes out on top, it's going to be a fantastic matchup on Monday.
Jake, it will be terrific. And it's an amazing story what Marshall's done. And I think last year was just the start. They're in for sustained success. And you know what? The Thundering Herd took down the number 1 team in the nation. I think they got the defending national champions' attention. That sets up for a very intriguing layer. I'm paying attention to the first 15 minutes on Monday. What an opportunity for the Thundering Herd and for everybody there around the campus. Congratulations to those around Marshall soccer. And for Georgetown, they've been the standard. Look, at this stage of the game, in soccer, one little thing, sometimes it's PKs where it's by chance. Both these teams are so successful. And you know what? We're going to get great soccer on Monday, and that's what it's all about. It's been a joy that we've had a college soccer season. I know Marshall and Georgetown fans would agree. Let's have a great match on Monday.
Hey, heck yeah, I completely agree with that. As a broadcaster, I'm glad we had it. As a fan, I'm glad we had it. It's been a fantastic year, and we're being treated to even more fruits of the labor here on Monday afternoon. John, thank you so much.